And then the export to IFC is the export that we are focusing on today. The IFC file is the preferred file type for exporting data to BIM models. The first thing to do would be to select the Civil Designer design items that you would like to export with this particular IFC export. You can select to export your terrain model and then which of your road files you would like to export. If you have a sewer, stormwater, or water network in your design, then you can optionally export these as well. And then all your auxiliary services, so normal crossing services, can also be exported with your IFC file. Okay, then just a few additional points here. We can export each add-on module, so your sewer, stormwater, and water networks, for example, as separate IFC files. We can export all the CAD mesh objects in the drawing to IFC as well. This export CAD mesh enables you to include all the 3D CAD entities that are made up of polyface or polygon meshes in your drawing with the IFC file, to then have these items included as a mesh in the BIM model. So that would include items like 3D blocks or furniture that were added to your project drawing that are made up of these meshes. The negating coordinates would be for Southern Hemisphere drawings or projects. And then if you want to export each individual add-on module as a separate IFC file, you also have the option to export each road as a separate IFC file. So essentially, if you have your BIM model and you only want to view certain roads, you have the option to only import individual roads one at a time, as and when needed. Whereas if you exported all the roads in the one IFC file, you would then be loading all the roads into the BIM model at the same time. So this option gives you more flexibility when it comes to importing data into your BIM model. Okay, and then this is a very important option over here to export your road layer works. So that would depend on how much detail the person viewing the exported IFC file would need. If they need to view and interrogate the road's pavement layerworks to draw off quantities, for example, then this export option would need to be checked. Then we also have this option to segment the length of road that you are exporting. When would this be beneficial? If your client would like to schedule the material, the plant, or time allocation for the construction of a road in sections, then this option would be ideal. So they would be able to extract quantities and do the planning on those individual segments of road. Okay, then you can also make use of the BIM naming standard file names, which currently includes the BS 1192 file naming convention. So you would be able to add the project code, the company code, the zone describing which specific part of the project this work entails, as well as a level code. Is this ground floor work, first floor, or all levels of the design? Then select a document number from the drop-down. For example, is this an infrastructure design? Is it surface water drainage, etc.? It will read in the code automatically. A suitability status of the document, is it suitable for tender purposes or construction purposes, etc. And a revision number. So those are the BS 1192 naming standards. Okay, so that's optional. Okay, and then importantly, you would need to select which IFC schema to use. A schema is a defined framework or the structure of how the data needs to be stored in these BIM models. These schemas have evolved and have needed to be adapted as additional information has needed to be added to the BIM models. Infrastructure design, for example, is a relatively new addition to the BIM model, and elements of road and railway designs are still being defined and classified in the newest schemas. As you can see from this list of schema updates, the IFC 4x3 is the most recent and up-to-date schema, which includes the latest additions. And Civil Designer 8.5 now supports this latest version. Okay, then moving on to the catalog selection. For the catalog selection, you have the option to add the classification codes applicable to your specific project to the design entities in the IFC file export. We currently cater for the Uniclass 2015 classification codes, which are the British codes, the Uniformat 2 codes used in Canada and the USA, and then the South African AQS codes. So then these classification codes will then be assigned to each exported civil designer entity and will then be visible in the BIM model for whoever is interrogating or viewing that BIM model. Okay, then we also have the IFC Properties button, essentially assigning which properties of your civil designer entities you'd want exported to the BIM model. Initially, we exported a fixed set of properties for each civil designer entity, be it a road, sewer, stormwater, or water pipe. But then we added this custom properties option to give you, the user, more control over which properties you would like to export to the BIM model. So as you can see, this was just a fixed set of properties that we initially assigned. For example, a stormwater pipe with all the properties that you would expect to have assigned to a stormwater pipe. So what sort of customization can be achieved? You can actually double click and edit the property name or the source. The source being the exact property that will be extracted from the civil designer design data in your project, and your description can also be edited and changed. You've also got an option to disable a certain property from being exported, those being from the fixed set of properties. You do additionally also have an option over here to right click on a line and insert your own new property. If you insert a property, you can then leave it blank so that someone who then loads your IFC file into their BIM model might be able to add their own specific or required details to that entity in their specific BIM model. So those are just some of the customization options that we do have. Okay, then I just wanted to once again point out some of the new entities that we are exporting to IFC in Civil Designer 8.5. So that would be your road signs, road furniture, road markings, as well as your crossing services, or as we call them now, auxiliary services. So those are just some of the new export options that we've added in Civil Designer 8.5. You can see in the dialog that we've got some new checkboxes allowing you to select to export your road signs, road markings, and linear road furniture. Okay, and then another addition to Civil Designer 8.5 is that we can now save to an IFC zip file. So the exported IFC files for larger projects can get quite big. The file sizes get quite large, but with the IFC zip file you are reducing the file size quite substantially. So once again, another nice feature in Civil Designer 8.5 is this option to create an IFC zip file. When I exported this project to an IFC file earlier, I also exported an IFC zip file for the project. And here in File Explorer you will see that the zip file size is quite substantially less than the normal exported IFC file. You can see that the standard IFC file is about 63 megs, whereas the zip file is in the region of about 11 megabytes.